What's up, Council of Comics? We're here with Spawn writer Sean Lewis and...
Yeah, shout out to Madness. Yeah, Rogue Nation 845. Bro.
Writer Sean Lewis, and you're gonna just tell us about what you're working on.
That sounds great. Well, obviously King Spawn and Scorched. Working with my uncle here at the Fishkill Comic Con and Credit Con, which has been great. Love Snakes just ended with Hayden Sherman. Anybody who wants to find some cool, great, dynamic art, Hayden's doing amazing work without me, son of a bitch. All across DC. Has some covers coming out for the animated series, Batman animated series that I would check out.
Did you work on that Future State Superman Son of Metropolis, or Superman of Metropolis?
I wrote both of the issues of Superman and Metropolis.
Very nice. Was it fun taking a crack at John Kent?
It was. I didn't know a lot of what I was going to be walking into. It was an interesting kind of gig.
Did they? I mean, I'm sure like there was a lot of things that they didn't know that you would be walking into at the time.
It was definitely an interesting thing. I got an email that was basically, it started out with like, full insight on it. It was like, do you want to do backups of the Guardian in the book?
Yes.
And then there was like some kind of shakeup happened. They were like, we love what you're doing with Guardian. Can you jump into John Kent? I was like, okay, you got to tell me more about John Kent. Like, I don't know as much as I am about as I do with Clark.
And they're like, here's a whole highlight on him.
So like we went through that, and then yeah, it was. Getting a chance to work at DC was exciting. Getting to work, in the red and blue was. It's hard not to have the little kid and you get like
excited about it.
Yeah,
right?
man. Like these are the icons.
And he's a different Superman.
Yes.
So you get to play differently with him.
And a different age of him of when anybody had seen him. So I got to think a lot more about like, where exactly is he going to end up? Like there were certain things that he definitely wanted of like, we need there to be like a huge problem where he basically like we need him to bottle the city and to be a mistake. It was like,
yeah,
sounds like it will be. So then kind of working that out was like interesting to see where that would fall. But also DC's editorial has been really great to work with. I'm working with them on a couple of new things. So
that we can't talk about.
Nah, you never can. It's always the shit.
I know. But it's nice to know that that they're good to work with. I'm always wondering about editorial when I'm reading the comics. Because I'm like, this writer can write better than this. What did they do to him? What happened?
I wonder. It's one of those things. I think it's also fit on the writer at times. Is like sometimes I think writers could be more judicious about like this is a world where I'm gonna be best in, because it's hard. Comics are a hard business. So the moment anyone's like, "Hey, do you want to do this book?" You're like, "Yes." What's the book? It's a book. What's it about?
See, this is why I mentioned. Before we rolled, I mentioned something about character Bibles. I'm really big on character Bibles, but people don't even know what it is. It's not even a who's who.
Right.
It's the creator's notes on who the core of this character absolutely is. Like, imagine if you received, like, Joe Shuster? Yeah, so imagine getting notes from, like, Joe Shuster. It's like, Superman will never kill, and this is why. And, like, that's it. These are my official thoughts on the character forever. Like, so I'm big on that. Not everyone does it, and some people only have it locked in their head.
Well, no, I think that is important. I think it's also important, on a creator side, I think it can get really easy to get into writing like a major character, I think, and go like, I'm gonna reinvent this whole wheel. But the truth is like there's a fandom that have like devoted a lot of their life to the wheel.
Yeah.
It'd be kind of like showing up as a president of a country and being like, democracy's bullshit. I'm doing a different thing.
Just make it like Wheel of Fortune. Just change a panel on the wheel and then like let's go somewhere with it.
And get into the core of them and go like, what's the exciting thing that can highlight or bring that out in a new way, or even more than it has been in a while? That's the big thing, right? Like,
yes. So, since you brought that up, what do you find the most challenging when you're working on Spawn? Actually, I'm gonna follow it up with a nice version of this question, but let's start there.
I think with the Spawn stuff, that's a book I was super excited to do because I feel like
Oh, you got into my backup question.
The type of stuff I write fits it. Like, I knew I was a little bit lucky because when Todd approached me about it, honestly, the biggest thing was like working for Todd was kind of amazing and scary because I'm like, my first comic books I bought are from Todd. Like, this guy's a legend and a luminary. There's also lots of stories about Todd. Is he gonna kill me? Is he insane? Is he this? And then you work with him and you're like, oh no, he's an intense businessman. Like, the great thing about him, like he was talking about editorial, there's no bullshit. Like, Todd will be very upfront of like, this works, this doesn't work. And I actually really appreciate that. It's not a character Bible, but it's the living character Bible.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he's around to be like, nope, we're not doing this, we are doing that.
Absolutely. And he's been amazing about, I gotta say, he's been incredible about giving me and the other writers in the universe a surprising amount of like freedom. He'll definitely step in when it's like, that's too much freedom. Like you got too far with that thing. But I was kind of lucky because when he approached me with King Spawn first, there was some books I'd already done that he very much was like, I like the tone of what you're doing in that. And then he'd asked me, he was like, what are like some older comics that like, he was like, I want this to be a mature book. And I was always really obsessed with like Garth Ennis's Punisher Max and Frank Miller's Daredevil run especially. And Micheline. Like the Daredevil runs from the 80s are like all like I'm obsessed with. And so I was like, I want the book to feel like this. And then there's definitely some leanings towards old Vertigo books I love. That it was like the street stuff I want to feel like this. And then the magic
when I think of mature titles, my brain leans on the Vertigo titles, so like I think that's really great. Because when other people think mature, they go to
what do they go
Dark
to?
Knight Returns or they go to Watchmen, and I feel like they're lost in those aesthetics. And I'm not.
Why do you think that's what they go to?
Because like that's what we were first exposed to in that age range. We're 80s kids, so like. Those were our first mature exposures. But thankfully, I mean, we're also around for Vertigo, so like that like leaned in a little bit.
Vertigo's like the thing. Like I still go back to so many of those books, and I'm just like, I just think about like Black Orchid and the early Sandman run. Like there's just so much.
Oh, Black Orchid was so good. Like that's the one. That's the one that's underrated. I agree. Are you listening, Netflix? Yeah. Black Orchid.
Black Orchid's amazing.
I'm doing Sam.
Yeah, I mean, Vertigo is such a huge like impact. The British invasion that came with them, all of that stuff. I mean, I was too young at the time to know that's what was going on, but it's
but it was so cool too that we were part of it, and now we can reflect back on it.
Absolutely. I mean, all my heroes.
That's so great. All right, so you actually covered both sides of the gambit. You did both
fucked it up.
No, it was good. It was good. Is there anything else you would like to promote while we have a moment?
Buy more comics. Support your retailers.
Support his uncle.
Support my uncle. Absolutely. Emmett Garnham, Haven for Heroes. If you have trouble finding any book I've written, Emmett is a way too loving family member, and I'm sure he has 1,000 of them in his basement. So you can always reach out to him.
All right, Council. Thank you. Sean, a pleasure. Peace out.
Bro, let's get it.